I guess as a starting point, like how has this house felt different than the last one? Right, because this is you're one of the few people who were at Experience House 1, came back to Experience House 2. How is how has this been different?
Yeah. So I'm always gonna kind of start with the people, right? So one of the things I love most about Experience House, and I could tell from the first event, is the level at which intention was at the forefront for the curation process. And I noticed a difference in curation. And the difference that, well, okay, how could I say that short and punchy? Okay, so what I would say is, probably the things I've said most leading up to Experience House and probably inside of Experience House to the different attendees is that the things that happen in this house are completely unpredictable, and that's by design. And the thing that is predictable is that the people here are absolutely mind-blowing, like magical humans. And the archetypes that were present at this Experience House allowed for a different type of chemistry. And something beautiful that kind of emerged was this mashup of creative and artist type, and then the more entrepreneurial, business-minded side. And what that did was it allowed for the creatives and like the artists to understand a little bit more about how they can create a lifestyle that feels abundant and sustainable around their passion. And the people who were a little bit more business-minded felt, and I can speak from my own experience, felt more expressed and more like we're touching parts of our soul that often gets overlooked. Like I read a poem in front of people, right? And I don't feel like I've never identified with being an artist or a creative. And so what felt different about this Experience House is because the different archetypes were in a few different quadrants, you got to see a little bit more of yourself through the lens of the other people that might have been even further outside your comfort zone, or something that like a different when you're surrounded by different people that serve as different mirrors, you see different sides of yourself, I think is what I'm trying to say, is you get to play with different parts of yourself. And I felt like the curation of this Experience House allowed for people to kind of play in their edges in different ways. And I thought that was really beautiful. You can come to Experience House with the exact same people in a totally different place and get a totally different experience, which would never happen because you're going to have different people each time. But the container that it's in brings such a different dynamic and a different flavor to it that the space itself had its qualities, and the space itself lent its own personality to the mix. So really, even if you've been to one before, you're never going to get the same thing twice.
What did you, because this is now your second Experience House, and you brought in a few other people, like, what do you tell people about Experience House? And when you referred other people into this, what did you tell them?
Yeah. So when I was sharing about my experience, and even when I was referring in friends to come play, I told them that Experience House is built to be unpredictable. And you never know what you're going to get, but it's always what you need. And that was my experience the first time. And I had a very inward dialogue, a very inward experience. And this time I was able to come back, and it's like new house, but different me, right? Because like we evolve and we like move through the world differently.
What is Experience House? Like, how would you describe what this is?
Yeah, so Experience House is a sandbox for you to play with your craft and to build your own mastery and to not just co-create and build something that not even you could imagine, but it's also at the same time allowing you to go deep with yourself and to explore your own edges and to really claim with power and conviction who you are and what dent you're making in the world. And because you have such incredible humans that serve as mirrors and also collaborators, you also get to experience as you're designing experiences, which is just unlike anything else.
I know that you're a part of a lot of different communities. You've been to a lot of different events and experiences. Mm-hmm. Like what about Experience House feels unique?
Well, I think the most obvious layer is the depth provided by how long we spend together, right? So like a month-long container isn't something that's normally offered. And I think that a lot of people probably think like, whoa, that's a big commitment. But what that does is it gives you space to be inspired and not just on task. It gives you space to get to know yourself as you're getting to know other people. It gives you a runway to be agile and to change your mind and to play with things and to tease it out and to test it and to change your mind again and to integrate it. In a container that it has such unique perspective and like niche representatives that everything is an upward spiral. Like your conversations over breakfast, upward spiral. When you're experiencing someone's production, you're taking something from that. Like it's not just, you're not just a spectator. Like Experience House is not a spectator sport. Like you do not sit and just observe things. You're constantly pulling out, where's the thread? How does this matter? Like what does this matter to me? Like how does this impact my thoughts? What beliefs do I have that have shifted? And how does that change my ethos in the world? And again, because you have so many different perspectives available to you, you don't just get challenged, you get the opportunity to upgrade. And sometimes that's weaving in someone else's magic. And sometimes it's reclaiming your conviction for yourself.
Who do you think this is for? Like who should come to Experience House?
I think that if you are someone who has ever been told that you are a walking experience yourself, you should be here. If you're the type of person that is down for anything and is open to receiving in ways you couldn't possibly predict, this is for you. If you are someone who's taken the time to build mastery in something and to a point where it's almost predictable and you're swimming with the same fish in a similar pond and you're kind of intaking the same content as the people in your field, you need to be here because adjacent innovation is going to be the best way for you for anyone to fall back in love with what they do and fall back in love with the humans that you touch and the ability to co-create in ways that you couldn't predict is also a crash course in self-development. So if you're not interested in looking at yourself in the mirror and like looking at your shadows and looking at your gifts and looking at your opportunities and your contribution, those are all prerequisites, I would think. So there's that Mother Teresa quote that's, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. If you want to love your family, this isn't what she said, but like if you want to love your family, you have to love yourself. And I think that anyone who's trying to make an impact in the world doesn't always necessarily receive the spaciousness to continue to build that relationship with self. And what happens here that is really beautiful is not only are people masterful, not only are they contributing to the world, but slowly you see the puzzle pieces of themselves kind of click into place. And a lot of that happens in collaboration, like in conversations, through workshops, through witnessing others. And I think that if somebody is looking to create the biggest ripple effect, and they're open to going there, like they're open to doing it from a foundation that really is heart-led, it starts with like knowing and leaning into your own heart. And this is a really beautiful container for that.